Hello everybody and welcome to the 7th video in our series of videos on the American War of Independence. Today we're going to be looking at the end of the war and how America established a republic. As always, we begin with our learning outcomes. So by the end of this presentation, you guys should know the consequences of foreign intervention in the war. Second, you guys should know how and where America finally won the war. And third, you guys should know 3 facts about how America organized itself after gaining independence. We looked at the victory of Horatio Gates in the north at Saratoga and Washington's trials and tribulations in and around Pennsylvania and how this ultimately led to help from countries like France and Spain, and the impact this had on the war can't be overstated. The British were now not only fighting in the American colonies but also in the lucrative colonies in the Caribbean, which we can see here, and in India on the far side of the world. They could no longer ship troops to the colonies as they were needed elsewhere. The country of Ireland was stripped of all British troops, which is going to become important when we look at the 1798 rebellion. The war became a war of defence for the British, so they could no longer really go on the offensive, and also the British naval supremacy was severely lessened. This turning of the war into a war of defence led to the British abandoning Philadelphia in 1778 as they felt that they couldn't protect both Philadelphia and New York. The war continued to rage on between 1778 and 1781, with Washington and his Continental Army suffering through another difficult winter in 1778 and 1779. But the key battle that ended up winning the war took place in the town here known as Yorktown in 1781. Once again here, help from the French was crucial as the French Navy defeated the British Navy at Yorktown, allowing them to bombard the British Army in Yorktown. Also, the American Continental Army was being led here by a man known as Nathaniel Greene. Now, Nathaniel Greene had been conducting a successful guerrilla campaign against the British in the south. So this is a new theatre of war. We had Horatio Gates in the north, we had George Washington in around Philadelphia and New York, and Nathaniel Greene was in charge down in the south. And he had conducted the successful guerrilla campaign throughout 1780 and 1781. This eventually led to the surrender of the British, who were led by General Cornwallis at Yorktown in October 1781, and this brought an end to the fighting. The treaty wasn't actually signed until September of 1783, as they were discussing whether Britain would grant America full independence or if they would still be part of the British Empire, and just give them kind of greater freedom within it. Eventually, it was decided that America would be completely independent and that the new type of government they would have would be a republic where people voted for the leader of their country, who was to be known as a president. The treaty also gave America all the land between the Atlantic and the Mississippi River. So this is land that had been denied to them by the Proclamation Line. The first president elected was president was George Washington in 1789. So the big question here is, why did it take 7 years between the signing of the Treaty of Paris in 1783, which made them independent, to electing their first leader in 1789? Well, they were trying to decide if they should be a unified country or a loose group of confederated states that had their own independence, but as I said, were part of this kind of confederation or alliance. Finally, in 1787, they sent representatives from all 13 colonies to a thing called the Constitutional Convention, where they drew up a new US Constitution. Washington, who had retired after the War of Independence, was brought back to oversee the drawing up of the Constitution. The new constitution led to 2 main things. We'll look at it in greater detail in the next video, but it led to the forming of a strong central government with an elected president who was elected every 4 years. And Washington served as this president for 2 terms and then refused to try and gain re-election after his time was up. We will look in the next video why that is so significant. So that brings us to the end of our presentation. So by now you guys should know the consequences of foreign intervention in the war. Second, you guys should know how and where America finally won the war. And third, you guys should know 3 facts about how America organized itself after gaining independence. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys got something good from this video.